say I was laughing because Fatima always says, "You don't know me from a can of paint." Their go-to line. I've heard her say that so many times. I'm like, yeah, this guy doesn't know me from a can of paint.
That's like a pet peeve. Somebody trying to come in, you don't even know
Yes.
me, and now you're trying to tell
Yeah.
me about me. Not that I can't receive feedback, but be
Yeah.
like thoughtful and reflective and give the possibility that I might have already done some deep work. So come with something that's not just flippant
Mhm.
or quick stereotype.
People say that travel changes them because you remove yourself completely from the environment that made you believe who you are. It allows you to see more of your true self clearly without the environment telling you something else. So, what's one thing about yourself that you think changed or that you shed because you recognized it as not actually being a part of you, but a result of your environment? And I thought it would be a good topic for you too, because you guys have moved around a lot. So I feel like you would be familiar with this concept.
I think one thing about this travel that's really pronounced for me is that when you're on or living in America and we think we're the center of the universe, and a lot of people don't even pay attention to what's going on. And when they do pay attention, they think it's ridiculous, you know? So it really humbling and offers an opportunity for humility. Another thing about travel that's really been pronounced this time is not centering myself in this part of the story. I'm more centering the people who are native to this area and trying to understand their story and how me being here impacts them. I think when I traveled when I was younger, it was my story. I was the center and how everything going on impacted me. So I feel myself being more of an observer, standby, noticer. Um, I think that's what travel's doing for me this go around. And I've had to give myself a lot of pep talks because just like, the world is changing so fast, digital is impacting cultures. And yeah, just have to be very humble because I think for the most part, um, wealthy Americans are not looked at favorably, right? Outside of celebrities. But a lot of people are not satisfied, very um, unhappy with policies or politics. Our nationalism focused so much on our success over others. And when I'm in the United States, I feel like I'm a part of the group that sees clearly where we can. I don't feel like I'm the problem. It's the other people. Now that I'm here, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm the problem too. So that's been a huge perspective shift.
Mm. It's interesting for me. I haven't been in an environment like that where the culture is so drastically different than, mainland US. But within the cities that I've lived in and then coming back to my hometown, I am realizing that there are these like assumptions that people place on me when I tell them that I grew up here, I'm from here. I don't really mention that I left until later. But when they ask, they don't ask. When you first meet someone, usually you don't ask, oh, where have you been in recent years? It's, oh, are you from here? And so I just say, yes, I'm from here. And then they have all these assumptions layered on top of that. And I can see them like processing that in front of me. And for some reason, that processing doesn't feel good to me. Like, I feel like they're judging me in a negative sense. Oh, she's from here. She hasn't seen anything else. She doesn't know anything else. She's like every other person that I've met from here, maybe, is what they're thinking. It's just that feeling that I get. And then I kind of realize, why it is important, or maybe, important to experience being in different places if you have that opportunity, because it widens your perspectives and your experiences, so that when you meet people, you can kind of have more space to meet them where they're at, because they're probably coming from a different place. So yeah, breaking that assumption for people is like their eyes get like wide, like, oh, you haven't lived here your whole life, even though you're from here. And I found that it's surprising for people, and that was new for me to experience. Oh, why is it surprising for them? And then also being back here, remembering who I was as a person, growing up here. And then a lot has changed in my life and who I am, and then coming back, it feels different. So it's really strange. It's a really strange experience, and I'm still adjusting to it.
Is there anything that, because you left, right, and then you got to know or develop new parts of yourself in exploring living in other places, but then coming back to somewhere that's so familiar but probably feels very different because you're different. So is there anything that you feel like a certain part of you that you're facing again that was because of the environment, and then you left, and coming back you're realizing like, oh, what is the question I'm trying to, that's
Like,
resurfacing, or that you're finding you need that part again? I know this is so vague, but
yeah, it's really hard to say, because I don't know if certain things were strictly part of my environment or if they're part of my development
mm,
and growth coming back here, or in the timeline of being back here. I will say, growing up, I was extremely shy and afraid of people, and untrusting and pessimistic, and just, I don't like people. I don't talk to, and my friends close to me, they know I am to my core like that still. Everybody knows they're Paul. You are still like that. Like, what are you talking about? Used to?
I couldn't even not show it.
I know. I already saw Fatima from the corner of my eye. She's like, used to. Yeah. But there are parts that I can activate from myself now, at least in certain environments. Like, okay, I can be more open here. I can be more childlike here, just open-hearted and free. And that's the only way that I've been able to really make new relationships here anyway. I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So I think I am able to turn those things on, those parts on. And that's what's changed. Yeah.
So for those of you who might just be hopping on, wondering what we're talking about, this is our Unfiltered series, which is just us talking off the cuff about things that we've been thinking about. And we're just going to hop on social media or podcast platforms from time to time and just have an open conversation about what's been on our minds. And so you can find us on all things socials, on Inside Coffee Break, and on the Coffee Break on all the different podcast platforms. My name is Fatima. I'm one of the hostesses, and we have Liz here. and grace. Yeah, we just like to get into it. I was like, wait a minute, the audience might be like, what are they talking about? And what we're really processing through is honoring our own story, but also not being Gil all the time, but also understanding that it's important to honor our story so that we can correct the assumptions about ourselves, you know. And I was thinking about a quote when Liz was talking, because when Liz and I connected, we were both in a period of, or not just a period, I think our personalities, we both are always questioning and growing. So we're never settled in anything. We're always thinking of what's the next thing we might need to grow in or think about. And so this quote was talking about, if you find yourself in a forest and you don't know where you are, then that means you're on the right course, because the trees know where they are, the birds know where they are. Basically, your journey is as it should be, whether you know it or not. And you're really in the juicy bits if you don't know what's coming next. And I feel like I have been on this journey of not knowing what's coming next. I'd say now, maybe I'm on a 6th or 7th year, and just not being able to predict much, whether it's actual things and circumstances that have happened, or how people perceive me, or how experiences are going to be. My thoughts, my emotions, nothing is really predictable. So I think what people want to categorize you, Liz, is in the predictabilities and the stereotypes, and you don't fit into any clear category. So, and people are always trying to sort and figure people out. I was in the car with my daughter, and she asked me, what's an enigma? And I explained that enigma is something that can't be solved. And I said, I've always been called an enigma. She's like, oh, I want to be an enigma too. I was like, well, you can't force yourself to be an enigma. You're naturally one, or you're not. Some people are just open and transparent and very clear, and I think you're one of those, but time will tell. So I was like, and actually it's not the most comfortable thing to be an enigma, because sometimes you confuse yourself, you know.
Yeah. That's a good point. I was just discussing that with Grace a few days ago about people trying to figure people out. And for some reason, I don't know why, but when I sense that feeling from somebody else, they're trying to figure me out, I don't like it.
Right.
Like for some reason, it doesn't feel sincere to me, because it doesn't feel like this genuine curiosity. Okay, this is a person. This is Liz. She in front of me. It's a blank page of a person. Let me just figure this person out. Let me try to put her in this like puzzle or this map of maybe my network or my understanding of people here, and then because I don't know if this is sensitivity or not, it doesn't feel genuine to me, and I have a hard time connecting.
Were you about to say something before I add something to that?
I was just gonna say that maybe it's because they've never broadened their perspectives. Because, yeah, I wonder if the people who come off like that are people that have lived in this bubble and never explored out of that. And so they can't even, like, they don't even have the width to get to know you in that way. They're just trying to put you in a box.
And I think it's that. And what I was going to say is that she's an INTJ. And so INTJs spend their lives getting to know themselves. And there's a high emotional intelligence and self-awareness. And so we're very sensitive, I'm one too, of people trying to say they know us, especially when they get it wrong, because they're being so quick and surface. Because we've spent a lot of time getting to know ourselves. So one way for you to really impress me when you are trying to tell me about me is at least get something right, you know?
Like, I don't even know myself. So you're trying to tell me who I am?
And you're
Forget about
all days, and it's like, no, no, give me something that I don't know, or give me something revelatory, that I haven't thought about before. Be a little bit on the mark. So that might be a little bit of arrogance or whatever, but I just think from children, we spend a lot of time analyzing our emotions and our thoughts and our behaviors. And so seeing somebody trying to rush in and hurry up and decide and figure us out, that's like a turn off.
And I
I'm
think
like,
this
oh,
Yeah,
no.
go ahead, go ahead. No, no,
I
no,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say I was laughing because Fatima always says, "You don't know me from a can of paint." Their go-to line. I've heard her say that so many times. I'm like, yeah, this guy doesn't know me from a can of paint.
That's like a pet peeve. Somebody try to come in, you don't even know me,
Yes.
and now you're trying to tell
Yeah.
me about me. Not that I can't receive feedback, but be
Yeah.
like thoughtful and reflective and give the possibility that I might have already done some deep work. So come with something that's not just flippant or quick stereotype.
Mhm. And all I was gonna say is like it just makes me think of our first episode where we talked about just making authentic friendships and connections with people is the number one thing you just need to do it is just to be genuinely curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the people who make you feel uneasy in getting to know you is because it's not coming from a genuine curiosity. There is some ulterior thing going on with them.
Or they're just, it's that, but sometimes also people are just doing the motions, going through life. It's not thoughtful, it's not reflective. It's just, the surface small talk. And surface small talk can be very invasive sometimes. But I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, you listen really well. And I laughed because I was like, I didn't used to listen very well. I said, what I realized when you said that is when I went through my period of grief for a long time, my brain would be frozen and I couldn't concentrate. Now I realize that in hindsight. So most of the time I would be talking to somebody, especially if it wasn't face to face, and I didn't even hear a word they said. So they thought I was being quiet because I was listening to them deeply. It was like, and it's really, I was like, I don't know what the words are coming out of your mouth. But I did that for so long where I would just be quiet, trying to keep up with the conversation and have some level of concentration. That it's built a habit now that I can go long periods of silence in conversations now where I don't say anything. I just listen. And now I'm really hearing. But before it was just chatter because there's too much. So that curiosity that Liz and Grace, both of you all brought, I don't think when we first started doing this, I was quite there to match my curiosity with my ability to listen. But I think over time, because I had to overcome that grief, it became a useful habit. And I'm noticing now that, wow, you don't have to get all your thoughts out anymore in a conversation. You just listen and give space for both people to think, oh yeah, what are we saying? Pause.
Yeah, I guess listening and being present. And being present can be really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being mindful.
Demure. I couldn't help it.
Oh my gosh.
You said be mindful. So
I have a funny story around that.
okay.
So at work, I was working on a project with this very difficult client and we were going back and forth on Basecamp.
Uh-huh.
And the client like essentially would come back 2 days later every single time with the smallest edit. Like, can we add 2 frames to that? Can we frames is like there's 24 frames in a second, so it's basically nothing.
Oh,
So in
okay.
the edit, they're like, can we add 2 frames to that? Or they're like, can we just take off 1 second here? So on the, I think, 15th version of them doing that, the CEO was working with me directly on this. So I asked him, is this the final edit? Because it was supposed to wrap up. And he was like, yeah, this is final. So I was like, okay. And every time I export a change, took like 30 minutes to export. So every time it's like taking a good chunk of my day. I sent the final, and then he came back with, so they want to add one new ending line. And then I said, funnily enough, the final just finished exporting. And then he replied with, he said, I like how you said funnily enough and not what the F. And then he was like, very demure, very
Right. Very considerate.
I was cracking up. That was the comedic timing of that was too funny.
Right.
So funny that you said that because oh,
But yeah, being present, I think, is something that I'm trying to practice these days, especially when things are just so busy and hectic. I feel like it gets harder, and I find myself in that space sometimes of like I'm listening to people's mouths move, but nothing's processing, and that's when I'm like, okay, I need to pause and carve out time in the day to just come back into my body.
Yeah, and it takes a while here, but I'm starting to say, I'm giving myself permission to chill. Like I work out on my deck, it's a beautiful experience, but the whole time I'm like thinking of the next thing I need to do.
mm,
And I'm actually the one pressuring myself because I can do yin yoga for 10 minutes or an hour and a half. The pace is slower here. Even like the work that I'm doing, I'm realizing that I can chill because everybody else is chilling. It's okay to chill. So giving ourselves permission. Well, when you find yourself in a space where you can reprogram all that busyness, I'm really trying to give myself permission to take advantage of it, to honor this opportunity because you're not always going to have this opportunity. So, yeah. So when you do have those moments, let's make sure that we like right now, this is what I'm doing, and this is all I'm doing, and this is all I'm focused on.
yeah. I mean, I know we joke about it, but we're like, we might not make it to tomorrow. You know what? So, might as well be in the moment.
Right.
We might not make it to season 3. We might not make it to next week. We might not make it to tomorrow. So no. But it's real. It's really real.
The podcast
Yeah.
where we are very real about passing away in the middle of the busiest season of your life.
It's crazy sometimes that we're even doing this.
Right? No, it's amazing. Like, and we have the spurts, right? Because y'all are really going down. I'm just like, I'll just show up.
Just show up. That's
Right?
all that
Right.
matters.
What time? Okay, I'll be there.
I think we're all gonna rotate that.
Right.
We're all gonna be holding the
Okay, now
foundation.
it's yours. Keep going. Take